Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Profiling Evil Live by Mike King. I think you probably all are pretty darn excited. This has been so challenging, especially the last couple of weeks as we've been kind of building up some interest in this amazing new DA and how much I appreciate the fact if you didn't catch the DA last week, in the podcast, go to Profiling Evil Podcasts. We talked about the courage it takes to create and file a circumstantial evidence case. And holy cow, Monday night we had Linda Stanley on for choir practice, and I reminded you then, as much as we'd like to ask the question, we need to allow the DA to do her work, and frankly, the DA did her work, and kudos to Lauren for tweeting out this morning. We've been watching for the last couple of hours as the police arrested Barry and have taken him into custody, waiting for more information to come out so that it's kind of a responsible way of chatting about things. I saw that Chris is in town, so Chris will undoubtedly have some good stuff to talk about in this regard. But again, I mean, it's a thing of responsibility, folks, that you kind of hold off and talk about things at the right time in the right place. And just congratulations to all of you who have kept Suzanne alive, who have been just enough of a burr under the saddle of law enforcement that they kept working this at breakneck speed. And some of you may feel like a year is not breakneck speed, but it really is difficult when you put together a case where you don't have the body or there are other challenges. One of those challenges was a DA last year who didn't have the courage that this current DA, Linda Stanley, has. So again, go to Profiling Evil Podcast, listen to Linda's podcast. Don't miss Monday night's choir practice with Linda when we surprised her with the real Starsky from Starsky and Hutch. We had, an hour-long conversation with Paul Michael Glazer, the star of Starsky and Hutch, Starsky, and we caught the DA off guard. That was a blast. Jody Blonde, welcome as a new member. Don Gell, welcome as a new member. To our mods, thanks for jumping on at the spur of the moment. Bottom line, folks, is that Barry Morphew has been arrested. There will be a lot of information that will roll out. Hopefully, the sheriff's office will share some information. But just quickly to kind of walk you through that, all we know at this point is that Barry was arrested, that the charges include first-degree murder and tampering with evidence. And first-degree murder says it all, folks. Everything that we've been talking about now is starting to come to fruition. And frankly, I think all of you need to be congratulated for staying the course. This is the hardest part about an investigation when you're doing that, is trying to do your job, keep the public informed that you can be trusted and that you're doing your job, and then be lucky enough that all the pieces fall into place. If you are interested in going back and looking at the history of this case, especially the way in which it was developed, you might be really interested in what we did. I looked back this morning, and we have had 21 shows that we've dedicated to Suzanne and this case. And if you go in and go right into the case files of just Suzanne, you'll be able to go through from the very beginning, the discussions we had, how we outlined the 4 theories and broke those down, frankly, shot holes in some of those, like the mountain lion theory and others. We'll talk about Andy's army of searchers who went out and tore the landscape up and looked for his sister. And as recently as last week, the discussions that we've had. But bottom line is he's arrested. The court documents are sealed. I was just checking a few moments ago, and they are not releasing those court documents. So it's going to be a little difficult to get some of the charging information, but I think that will come out in due time. And we undoubtedly will see some things roll out from the area. Again, Chris will probably shoot some things, and that fits what he likes to do, which is get out and be on the road. And that's going to be fun to watch what happens. But again, so proud of Lauren Scharf, who has had bumps and bruises along the way as she's looked into this. If you caught that Monday this week, Lauren was on with me. We talked a little more about the case, and we'll look forward to things unfolding. So watch for the news conference. I hope there's a press conference. The sheriff hasn't been real big on press conferences, but thankfully, we have a good relationship with the district attorney, and we'll get information as it's appropriate to release that information, and in turn, we'll roll that out to you. Now, if the DA is going to be really busy, so frankly, if she happens to talk to Lauren while she's there, and Lauren's able to get some comments from the DA, then we'll let the DA do what DAs do, and we won't bug her with coming on to talk to us on the program. But it's great to see your comments. We'll just take a second here and look at those. And again, for those just joining, about 2 hours ago, FBI, CBI, and the sheriff's office all backed up and fueled by this new district attorney, Linda Stanley, went in and placed Barry Morphew under arrest, charging him, according to public documents that we've seen, with first-degree murder and tampering with evidence, which I suspect will include probably tampering with Suzanne's body and moving it to different locations, maybe multiple locations. And again, think back on many, many months ago when I kept holding up my hand like this. But it is such a compliment to law enforcement to stay the course and to pull this off. I'm just so proud of them. I'm proud of this new district attorney. And frankly, I'm proud of all of you, because honestly, this keeping it alive. Last night, I actually was on a phone call with I'll let them mention who they are if they choose to mention them, but a group of people who have been very involved in this, including those who are looking for funds to help find Suzanne's body. And I just got to compliment you all. You all have made a difference. And this is the power that social media can play in this thing. And I have said over and over again, and some people have taken it a little wacky in my opinion, but I've talked about from the very beginning, public CSI, crowdsourced intelligence. And there have been so many tips and leads that have rolled into the sheriff's office and into CBI and the FBI, into the media, that have come from you folks, that we really can make a strong presence known in this idea of public crowdsourced intelligence. I am not a fan of crowdsourced investigation, where people go in and do what police officers should be doing. If you can gather information and not somehow impact an investigation, I think it's just incredibly cool. But I kind of caution against this idea that you can go in and investigate. We need to give tips and leads to law enforcement to follow through on this case, on all the other cases, whether it's Love Has Won or Kelsey Shelling or anyone else. So again, public CSI works, crowdsourced intelligence. It needs to be done in the right way, in my opinion. But well, heck, let's see if there's some comments here that maybe I can pull up. Let's see. Donna Watkins. Oh, thank you, Emil. Donna Watkins says, happy but heartbroken. Amen. amazing. There's a number of you who have gone through these similar kinds of things in your own families. So yeah. And Teresa, thank you. I don't know. I can sound pretty wacky, I think at times, but this is a great comment here, Vicky Parsons. So sad that this happened to a wonderful lady, and yet isn't this wonderful news to come out? Wow, 10 to life. Annie, you are amazing, and you know how much I appreciate you. Annie and I have actually been on the phone a couple of times in the last couple of days, and Annie just I saw was showing off her big 100,000 subscriber plaque on social media the other day. I can't wait till I have one of those, Annie. So I hope you help me get there. That was so exciting for you, and how much I appreciate the way that you look at these cases. Matt, great comment. Made a wish on Suzanne's birthday that he'd get arrested. So Matt, I got about 15 other cases that are chewing on the backside here that I'm going to have you make birthday wishes on if you were responsible. That's awesome. Denise, I agree with you. He needs to do the right thing and tell people where her body is. Now, police may know where her body is. And there were certainly pieces of information that I know we passed on that suggest areas of interest. And I look forward to seeing if anything unfolds there. But yeah, this is just great news. To Julie Llewellyn Schwartz, justice. I hope that the justice comes swiftly. The way that comes swiftly is with a plea negotiation, plead guilty, and turn up the body. And boy, if you caught last month, I brought on a legislator from Utah who had just passed a brand new law, and I wish Colorado had this. It's a mandatory life sentence for someone convicted on a circumstantial case where police cannot find the body. And the only way that the offender in Utah can get paroled is if they help police locate the body, bring closure to the family. Think of Dante Lucas, and he knows where Kelsey's buried. Kelsey's mom and dad and family need to know where she's buried. What a great bill that was in Utah. And if you get a chance, go back and look at that show that we did on that particular bill. I just, as a cop, I just love it. Anyway, let's see. Avalon Apples is shouting out, I'd love to give Andy and his family a hug. You know, we talked with the family last week, and they had been asked by law enforcement to not talk to anybody. You know that we had the DA on, and the DA was saying, don't talk to anyone. And of course, we just had this gut feeling that Mother's Day and the days leading up to it would be very significant. In fact, here we've had something every day on in regard to Suzanne's case, just to continue to create more insight, more public outcry, and frankly, more pressure on people who might know what and where. So anyway, let's see. Bliss Chris says, if there isn't a body yet, wouldn't they have to have some pretty solid evidence? I don't feel like they would have arrested him if they didn't have proof. So this is really what I've been talking about for, gosh, literally 7 or 8 months, Bliss Chris, and that is, it takes an incredible amount of courage to file a circumstantial murder case. When you don't have the body, you've got to have other evidence. And this is really cool. If you go back and listen to some of my videos on the forms of evidence, there are several forms of evidence that we look at in each case. We look at forensics, like blood and hair and things like that. We look at eyewitness accounts. We look at confessions. and we consider circumstantial evidence, that thing that says A plus B equals C. And it just makes good sense. I mean, a good example of that, I think I used to teach this to criminal investigators and teach the profiling principles. I'd talk about my middle child. And one day I walked into the house and he was laying on the couch complaining of a sick tummy. And on the kitchen counter, I saw a half-eaten chocolate cake. And on his face, I saw chocolate frosting and cake smeared around. And I said, calling him by name, "Did you eat all that cake?" And of course, being like any child, he didn't want to get in trouble. He said, "No." It reminds me of criminals, "Did you do that?" "No." And this is a perfect example of circumstantial evidence. It's other pieces of evidence that point to a truth. And in my opinion, a circumstantial case can actually be stronger than a case that's built on eyewitness evidence, for instance, because our eyewitness accounts are influenced by our personal biases, our life experiences, and those kinds of things. So you think about it. When you tell a story, you might grandize that or swing it a certain way based on your life experiences or your prejudices or your personal biases. Well, offenders do the same thing. So it is really foolish for any prosecutor to ever take a case that's built on only one form of evidence. And we used to think, when I was a young cop, I thought if I could just get a confession, I'd be home free. Well, in reality, the confession, frankly, just isn't as valuable as other kinds of evidence. And while I describe this, I want to just, again, thank you for these kind donations. This is so nice. I just saw one from Kitty Cat, a super sticker jumping up. Thank you so much, Kitty Cat. I'm trying to figure out why I can't pop that up. But wow, I really appreciate that. And I don't know how many of you know AK, but AK, thanks a lot. You are a good soul, and you drive a lot of people batty at times, including me. But you have become a friend, and I really appreciate you. In fact, folks, AK and I talk quite a bit, and I'm going to just AK, I'm going to let you weigh in whether I can rat you out on something that you forced me into doing. And I'll just watch for that for a minute. But AK, thanks. JRS, thank you so much. Another round of Diet Dr. Peppers. That's the first thing I'm going to grab when I'm done here. I also want to shout out, I think I missed one, but thank you so much for that. But let's get back to this idea. So we think we want something like a confession in these cases, and that it's going to make it better. But again, this idea that a confession can be swayed by our personal biases, by lifetime influences, prejudices, all of these things, we can really have problems. If you think back on the Susan Smith case, for instance, if you remember Susan Smith, she drowned her children in a lake. She took her car to a boat ramp and she let it go into the lake. Do you remember who her boogeyman was? And now, we don't have time to wait for a response, probably, but the boogeyman in her story was an African American. Well, that was based on her own prejudices, her own personal biases, and other things. But as she was fabricating her story, she picked out the demon in her mind and used that. Well, that would have really ruined an investigation if the investigators followed that system alone. So the strongest cases are built on multiple forms of evidence. And in this case, I would just about guarantee they have very powerful forensic evidence, probably blood and other kinds of things that were recovered from the home. Now, Chris and I kept pushing everyone back to go back to the home as we looked at this darn thing. But that you got to have forensic evidence, and that forensic evidence is involved there. I got to just, I'm getting a text here. I got to answer real quick. It's regarding this case, somebody who is sitting in the courthouse. But so we have forensic evidence. I would bet that there is eyewitness testimony to either behaviors or perhaps even the disposal. And so we have forensic evidence and physical evidence. I haven't heard of a confession yet, but then we have all this behavioral evidence. And so when you consider a circumstantial case, keep in mind this darn thing is going to be involving all forms of evidence coming in to do that thing called A plus B equals C. A common, reasonable mind would say this happened because these events happened. So that's a really long way of answering your question there. So anyway, let's see. Somebody popped up. Barry is charged with murder 1. Okay, talking about the day bells. Let's see. Well, a lot of you expressing what great news this is, and it is great news. Again, folks, we're talking about the fact that a couple of hours ago, police arrested Barry Morphew. According to all accounts, he's in custody right now being processed. The court documents I just checked are still not available. And so we won't know what's happening there. There will undoubtedly be some reports coming out. Lauren Scharf is on the scene there. In fact, I just got a text from Lauren, and a couple of neat things are developing that I can't quite talk about yet, but boy, I hope you're following Lauren. She's great. And make sure you pay close attention to the media that starts to pour out. I suspect we're going to see the sheriff do a press conference. He would be kind of crazy to not do one, although in the past he has been pretty quiet. The last press release from the sheriff's office was in November of this year, so that will be interesting. JRS is asking if Andy will be back on the show. Andy has really pulled back, trying to, now he's fired back up his business for the summer and is busy. I've talked to Melinda on a number of occasions and other family members, and they're doing exactly what they need to be doing. Tiffany Hughes says there's going to be a press conference at 3, so if we can get access to that, we'll pop it up and have some comments as we go along. So excuse me, I think that's good news, Tiffany. We'll just watch for that. And that might be the time that we get back together and see what else unfolds. Keep watching today, because I'm sure a lot will pop up. And I'll make a quick phone call here and see if there's anything I can share with you. So hang on there for a second. And let me just ask someone a question. And I'll keep looking through some of these and pop them up for you. Hi there. You working pretty hard over there? Oh, great. So I'm actually on a live right now. Can I tell them anything? I'm not even telling them who I'm talking to. Oh, sure. Hang on a second. I'm gonna see if I can pull this in so it works. So, hey, folks, this is kind of cool. This is like live TV here. Let's see if I can pull this in. So, Lauren, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, good. So, folks, give me a thumbs up or something if you can hear Lauren. I think I've pumped it through the whole system here. And, oh, perfect. So, so Lauren, you are driving like a bat out of Hades, and you're getting close to Salida. Why don't you fill everyone in on what you know right now? And might I say, Lauren, I've already complimented you on the show. You can go back and listen to it for your glory moment. But I'm just so proud of you and everybody else who has just dogged this from day one. But why don't you give them an update on where we are?
Yeah, so I started getting texts and phone calls from people that live in Salida saying that Barry Morphew was arrested. And, I have to confirm things before publicizing anything multiple times. I want to have, double, if not triple confirmation. And so I started making some calls. Then I started hearing from family members of, the Mormons and the Morphews. And then I got confirmation from law enforcement and also looking at court documents, his charges. And so it was confirmed that Barry Morphew did get arrested this morning, a little after 9 o'clock this morning. And there's going to be a press conference at 3 o'clock that I'm expected to be at. And hopefully we'll know more about the charges and how, law enforcement came to this conclusion.
Oh, that's fantastic, Lauren. Well, I actually have a couple of people on the ground there that I've remained really close with that have gone in and tried to get the charging documents, and they've got those frozen up right now. So if you end up getting those and can share those during the live or when you do your 3 o'clock press conference, that would be awesome. Folks, we would encourage you all. I assume, Lauren, it will be live for Fox 21, or how will that work? Will you just be reporting back on it, or will it be live for people to watch?
Yeah, I'm going to be going down there, or I'm on my way there right now with a crew, and we will be streaming it live on fox21news.com, and then also our sister station, fox31news.com. And we've already requested the arrest papers to find out more details about the arrest.
Oh, that's great. Would you be in a position that you can pull over and text me what link they would follow to get to the live, or would they just go to Fox 21 and we'll post that up so people can watch you live, and we'll have them focus on what you're broadcasting?
Yeah, so it's fox21news.com. That's it. I can send you a link after we get off the phone for sure.
Okay, well, folks, fox21.com is the link. Make sure at 3 o'clock Mountain Time that you tune in and watch Lauren as she goes live. And Lauren, if you're in a position at all that you can forward any of the charging documents, we'd certainly post them up here. And then obviously we want people to watch you as you go through the live, and you'll probably have a better chance of talking to some of the people, I hope. And if you get the chance, go over and approach the DA and whisper in her ear that I said Starsky says to talk to you, and let's make sure that we get the DA on record with you too. I mean, I just keep saying over and again, can you imagine the courage it takes for a DA to file a circumstantial case like this, Lauren, knowing that the previous DA didn't feel like there was a case there?
Yeah, I don't know much about the previous DA, but I know that it took them nearly a year. I mean, we're less than a week away from Suzanne's 1-year disappearance anniversary. And for them, there must have been we don't know how much evidence, how many pages of the arrest affidavit there are yet. But I can't imagine if it took them this long to make an arrest, that there must be a lot of evidence.
Oh yeah, this is crazy. And the the process that they will now have of going through discovery. I mean, think about, for those of you that have been following the Daybell case and all of the challenges that are going on through discovery here, these cases are so complex and so complicated. Now, there was a posting that I saw a minute ago, Lauren. I don't wear glasses, so I always, get partial comments, but somebody said that they are, it's reported that they might be digging up the last job site where he had a foundation. I don't know if that's true. It's been something that's been speculated for a long time. There was the foundation that we tried during Andy's search to get permission to get the cadaver dogs on, and were held off on that. So yeah, that's all interesting. But makes it, I think, a really interesting thing as it unfolds. So that will be interesting. So what's your first course of business when you hit the ground in Salida, besides buying a Diet Dr. Pepper?
We're going to go to where we can get the court documents. We're going to make a request in person as well. I know because of COVID, a lot of things were, through email and things, but we just want to double check and make sure that we don't have to make that request in person. So we're going to do that first. Obviously, we also might drive around and maybe go check out where Barry was living and seeing if there's active investigators working at the condo to see, if they're collecting evidence from that condo. I mean, we also need to set up for the 3:00 live press conference as well. So there's some technical stuff we'll have to handle as well.
Yeah, well, you're going to be busy. Would you mind just if you end up with a break, text me? I think I might even go live and try to broadcast your press conference just so that I can. As
I was driving, or as I'm driving, and me and my coworkers driving to Salida, I spoke with Melinda, Suzanne's sister, and there were some tears shed, and she talked about how Sheriff John Speasy promised her from the first time she talked with him that she would be the first one that he would tell when there was an arrest made. And she said he kept that promise, and she has kept her faith in local law enforcement and law enforcement on the state and federal level that they were going to find out what happened to her sister.
Oh man, isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and
I'm gonna share that interview on our website, Fox 21 News, as well. The whole interview, so
that's great.
People can listen to that. Yeah,
that's great. Well, I'll tell you, that's a solid family, and it's horrid that they had to step up and be the ones to carry the ball. But I'm glad that the sheriff followed through. It's a reminder to everyone, and something we, kind of mentioned all along, is that while it may not be happening as fast as we want it to happen, and certainly not as fast as a 1-hour episode of CSI, police don't give up. I mean, they just keep pushing, but they got to have evidence. And this is really a powerful statement that was made today in his arrest, because what it did was it sent a message that even with all this long, it would have been very easy for them to just allow this to be continue to be a cold case. But they continued to dog it, and they continued to push out. And this is just fantastic. I'm just so proud of them all. So, well, don't get a ticket. I suspect most of the police officers are really tied up right now, so you might have a free pass to pick up the speed a little bit. But we'll look forward to watching your live at 3:00, and to everybody that's weighing in here. Lauren, I don't know if you're driving and you can hear. I'll just read some questions as they're coming in, and we can keep talking.
I'll only have a few more minutes, and then I've got to go. But yeah, I can take a couple questions.
Well, let's just see what's going on. AK popped in a note saying first-degree murder with deliberation is huge. let's see. Kathleen Stutzman is saying it's hard for the daughters not to be loyal to their dad. Lost both parents now. Yeah, folks, you don't quit having parents, and imagine what the last year has been like for them, and now with these charges, what the next year and beyond will be like. Abby Davis is saying, I can't believe it, almost 1 year. Let's see. Just like Patrick Frazee was convicted almost on Thanksgiving. Oh, and then the murder of Kelsey. Yeah, it's again, it's kind of cool. We were talking about the different kinds of evidence, Lauren, and why it's so important that multiple forms of evidence are included in these kinds of cases. The other thing to think about in this case, folks, is that there are multiple crime scenes in a case, and I've heard some people talk about this, and they kind of get the terminology and other things a little mixed up. But the bottom line is there are usually about 3 crime scenes involved. The first is a local contact site, or the place where 2 people come together, a killer and a victim. And in this case, that happened a long time ago. Suzanne and Barry. Now, Barry hasn't been convicted, but he's certainly been charged now, according to everything that's out in public. That kind of is a no discussion point. We know that they knew each other. But then you have the actual crime scene where something happens. And there can sometimes be multiple crime scenes if a victim's taken to multiple places and victimized. That has its own unique set of personality and evidence that's involved. And then you have, in many of these homicide cases, a disposal site, and that is an entirely different crime scene, and it has a different personality, a different set of characteristics that go along with it, and it tells us different things about who the offender might be based on the manner and method in which a person's disposed of. So as you look at these kinds of cases, think about, as you look at the potential suspects in the case, who lines up with all of the different crime scenes and why would they line up? And so now if there's discussion that maybe they're returning to a job site that Barry worked on as a disposal site, becomes really significant considering what he did for a living, the fact that he had access to it, the fact that it ties back to the home where we never walked away from the home believing that was the place that had all the answers. So this is really the fun part of policing, is when you get to see all the puzzle pieces starting to slip back together. I don't know. Did I lose you, Lauren? I mean, I lost a bunch of people with that dissertation.
No, I'm still here. Sorry.
Well, yeah. And so before we lose you, is there anything that you felt like you would like to know? I mean, I wonder who got to witness the arrest besides just the officers.
I mean, this last year, and I know that both the Morphews and the Mormons, it's been a really hard year for them. And I know that this story of Suzanne went nationally, it went internationally. A lot of people cared and felt like they knew Suzanne even though they hadn't met her. They loved her spirit. They loved who she was. And I just, like what Melinda told me on the phone, she says, I mean, justice is just now started for her sister. And, she doesn't know yet if the family's going to come out to Salida anytime soon, but it's going to take a while. I mean, you and I both know how long it takes to get to trial.
Yeah.
So it's still a long process for both families.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's going to take a lot of patience. And you know what? Again, we've talked about it in the past, but the girls need space during this time. And I just hope that people really respect that. Frankly, I hope that interviews are left to people like you to do with family members and others, where you have a much broader audience than sometimes the YouTube community can get a little invasive and a little aggressive. So, but then again, I'm kind of a prude when it comes to a lot of that stuff.
A lot of people have already asked me, have they found Suzanne? And we still don't know that. And who knows what they're going to say at the press conference, if they're going to go into detail about the charges, or if they're going to just say, yes, Barry Morphew was arrested. These are the charges, and that's all we can say at this time. But I just want to remind people that who knows? We don't know if they recovered her body, or if they're still searching for her.
Yeah, really, really good point. I wouldn't it be awesome if they did recover her body? I put up a moment ago, Linda Leffler, Sergeant Leffler, put up a contribution, and she just put up another one saying very emotional, happy day, and really cool, Melinda, because happy Mother's Day. And I want to just publicly say to Linda, I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm sorry that our phone calls have missed each other in the last couple of days. And yeah, we, like you, are praying for the DA who has now a difficult job of putting all the pieces together so that this case isn't lost in court. But yeah, we really appreciate Melinda and what everybody's doing. Folks, I wanted to just pop up here. If you're interested, if you go to the Profiling Evil site on YouTube and hit on playlists, you can go in and you'll see there is a Suzanne Morphew playlist that's been created. So you can go into that and it will list all of the different videos that we've done on Suzanne over the course of this investigation, and give you a place where you can go in and explore those in detail. So again, if you want to take advantage of that, do that. Now, how quickly do you anticipate being able to get court documents when you arrive, Lauren?
I mean, it's all up to the court. Sometimes, it depends on the county, really, because some counties, if there's not much to redact, it takes, a few hours. And then sometimes it takes days. So hopefully, that's the first thing I hope to get is when I get there is the court documents. So we shall see. My bosses have also requested the arrest affidavit as well. So hopefully they can send me that as soon as they get it in their inbox as well.
Oh, that's great. Well, so this is interesting. I'm going to ask you, AK. I'm going to watch the chats real quickly here. I want you to tell me if I have permission to share something from a discussion that we had a day or two ago, and I'm spreading out the time frame. But I'd like people to kind of know some things that are going on if you are comfortable. And then Lauren, I'll ask you some thoughts on it too. But the comments just keep pulling and rolling in. Robin Brown is saying Suzanne's 50th birthday. She surely had a great day in heaven. She was with her dad and mom. That's pretty cool. And now with Mother's Day, everybody's been stressed out about Mother's Day, and we purposely held off on having the DA on until Wednesday of last week. If you, again, folks, a reminder, if you haven't been to Profiling Evil podcasts, please go to your favorite podcast platform and catch the podcast that we did with District Attorney Stanley. And then we had kind of a build up where we had a second discussion with her on Friday of last week. And then on Monday, we had her on choir practice. And of course, I was just, I learned during the week that the DA liked Starsky and Hutch as a kid, but she, well, it was in the early years of beginning law enforcement. And did you happen to catch that whole thing, Lauren? Oh, we may have finally lost Lauren as she's driving through the hills. So, folks, go back to Monday night's Profiling Evil choir practice. Last week, during my interviews with the DA, I learned that she actually had a collection of Starsky memorabilia, the red tomato, the Starsky and Hutch car, and And so I asked the DA to join me as my co-host on Monday night, 2 nights ago, to talk about a new law that was passed in Arizona that was mandatory life sentences for child abusers and human traffickers. And then I said, we're going to just have a little fun and talk some trivia about Starsky. Well, what she didn't know is I had called up the actor Paul Michael Glaser, who played Starsky and Hutch. And I kind of set up the DA, and at the right moment, I brought Paul on, and we spent the next hour just laughing about Starsky and Hutch stuff, and we just had a blast. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. I hope you'll go back. But all of this and the videos you've seen yesterday and that you'll see today and tomorrow and Saturday were all intended to help in this process of just increasing pressure on who may have been involved in Suzanne's death. And we just feel so honored to have played a part in all of it. It was great. So let me just pop up a couple of more comments here, and we'll get you all back to your day. Everybody's spidey senses knew Barry was off. Stephanie Ceresi. Well, that's interesting, because we all had gut feelings. Things just didn't seem right, but the daughters were unconcerned at her demise. I don't know, Annie Lane. We just don't know. And this is something that I think is important to remind ourselves of is we can't make decisions. Catherine, thanks for that comment. I'm glad you like Starsky and Hutch, because we really had fun with that one. And by the way, Carolina Girl, what did I think the motive was? There are a couple of theories that have floated around. Thanks for that kind donation, Carolina Girl. I think we've explored many of those possible motives. There was discussion out there that there may have been a breakup coming, that there was that was probably the most likely thing, that the relationship was coming to an end, and that created a lot of risk. We have to go back to Andy's statements when he said that Suzanne was communicating with her very close friend, and I hope you caught that beautiful birthday tribute that was posted out yesterday. But that's kind of looking like where maybe the real pressure was brewing, and that Barry stood to lose a lot. Interesting. Now, you also see sometimes relationships starting to come to an end when kids are finally getting out of the house, and we see that one of the daughters is graduating in another month, and it may have all been preparatory to just bigger changes coming in lives. But AK says I can talk about this. So folks, I want to just say two things about AK. Number one, and I say this lovingly, he drives me crazy, but he knows that he can call me at any time and that we can chat. And the other thing is that I can say about AK is that when he's given facts, even if it's something that he's already said, he fixes it if he was wrong. And AK, I salute you for that. But he put a lot of pressure on me about the Deceived book, and said, what are you going to do with that Deceived book money? And in reality, I guess it's nobody's business what we do with that. We finally lost Lauren's signal there, it sounds like. But he was absolutely right. You deserve to know. And so that was the whole purpose, was AK's prompting that pushed me to do that YouTube video last week, where we gave a sizable donation to the Children's Justice Center as seed money to start building a new building for child advocacy, forensic examinations, therapeutic exams, and criminal investigations. My wife and I are so excited to be able to push the proceeds to that. We also used the proceeds and made a second substantial donation to the Victims' Rights Council for training police officers in how to handle criminal investigations. We have already raised another $600 that we've allocated for missing and exploited children. So so AK, I'm saluting you because I'm pretty private about how I do things and what we do and where things go. But you're the reason why I pushed that. And now that's the first thing I wanted to say. And the second thing was that AK approached me. We spent an hour or so on the phone last night talking about how he could arrange for monies to be donated to go toward a reward for the recovery of Suzanne Morphew. Not convictions. And you notice Barry's reward was with return and conviction. Well, if now he's the suspect and he's the alleged suspect, but if he's convicted and found guilty, he was putting up a reward when he knew she'd never be returned. So that's a pretty interesting reward to put up. We never saw the police department step and stand behind it. But AK came up with an interesting idea with other friends in the YouTube and Twitter environment that he wanted to do a fund where a reward could go to whoever reveals where Suzanne is buried. Now, I hope, AK, there's no need for that, and that we discover at this job site that we're hearing about, or again, I keep doing this, maybe other locations, that we won't need that money. But AK's idea, I think, as we talk through this, and Lauren and AK and I, again, spent about an hour last night kind of chatting through this idea, is that I'm really frustrated with GoFundMe, which people give money like the Morphews, and that money just stays in an account. $33,000 now. Still people donating money to this. I've never seen any of it reduce in numbers. And so the things that they say they were going to use it for, searching and other things, it wasn't used for. I worry from a tax perspective what that would do to AK. I worried about AK having to justify what that money did, kind of like what he did to me with what are you doing with the book revenues? While we know that it's altruistic, it boiled down to how can you do that? And I love the idea that AK came up with as we talked last night, and that was that if in fact a fund like this is put together, that it might be in a way that is in a GoFundMe page where there is an absolute disclaimer in there that says on this particular day, if the fund hasn't been used, the money will be returned back to those of you who donate, less what the administrative fees are from GoFundMe and the transaction fees, so that AK and that team of people that have this idea to do something really good aren't personally punished, but they are in a position then that they can work with lawyers if it's an anonymous reward for someone who finds and says, here's the body, or if that person wants to step forward and be known as recovering the body, that they can do that. So AK, I hope I represented that appropriately. And I want you folks to know that we certainly would support that kind of an idea where you get your money back if it doesn't go where you intended it to go, but you pay the fees, the 3% and the transactional fee that GoFundMe charges, so that AK or somebody else doesn't have to come up with that money. And frankly, if I gave $1,000 and knew that it was going to cost me $30 to get that $1,000 back, if it was not used the way I wanted it to, I would be thrilled. So AK, I salute you and the team. Good luck with whatever you do in there, and know that you're always welcome on Profiling Evil's choir practice to step in and tell people if you in fact do that. I hope you don't have to, but there will always be other cases where you could. The other challenge was, just frankly, these are difficult cases. So AK, I hope you didn't mind me ratting you out, but what comes around goes around, and what goes around comes around, and you ratted me out on the deceived donations. So anyway, thanks. Well, you folks are great. Let's watch for the 3 o'clock broadcast to see what happens in the press conference. If you're on and you're not subscribed to my channel, I would just ask you to please subscribe. We are so appreciative of you stepping in and listening in. You can go back and listen to all those videos that we created over the course of this investigation, where you can understand what the mountain lion theory was. It wasn't my theory. It was based on biologists who deal with mountain lions every single day that shot down that theory. You can hear my opinions and Chris's opinions about what a crime scene looks like. And if you saw the news yesterday about the bear that took down a woman in Durango, those are messy crime scenes where an animal kills something. And where Suzanne's bike was with this idea that it was a cougar was just stupid. It was a terrible choice of options for how Suzanne could have disappeared. There would have been so much physical evidence, so much damage. And of course, we really go into that in detail, as we do with each of the scenarios. So hopefully you'll like those, and I won't continue to be so opinionated. I really appreciate all of you. Please subscribe. If you haven't signed up for our Profiling Evil podcast, do so. You can always choose not to listen, but whatever your favorite podcast platform is. If you haven't signed up for Mapping Evil podcast, this thing is now number 3 or 5 in Southeast Asia and Australia, and doing great. We're just having a blast with Mapping Evil. And it's done with a famous newscaster from Australia. And she and I look at criminal cases from the United States and from Australia. And we do some comparisons, and we talk criminal behavior and the concepts of how you would look at behavior in those cases. Deceived, always plugging it. Sorry about it. But if you're interested, get the book on Amazon. And today, I apologize for those that did it, but for the next couple of days, we offered a killer deal for Amazon for a promotion that they've got. You can get the ebook for $2.99. So jump on that and get the ebook if you haven't got the others. But if you want a signed copy, go to profilingevil.com. Otherwise, go to Amazon and you can get paperback, ebook, and soon the Audible on that. And make sure that you tune in later today for our podcast series. We're going to launch the beginnings of Police Week. We're going to be talking about Dennis Westenhoff's case. Dennis was a police officer who was murdered 31 years ago. His daughters reached out to me and his former partner and asked if we could talk about Dennis's case. And you'll hear from the daughters. He was murdered by what many believe was a fellow police officer who blew him up in his car. It's a horrible case. His case still has not gone to trial, but just a few months ago, FBI reopened the case and are looking at it once more. So that starts today. We'll have the video of it on Friday, and then we'll have the Westenhoff girls on choir practice Monday night, along with the detective who worked with Dennis. And you all have gotten to know him through the chats here, Ray Kelly. So please make sure you join us for that. And then watch for our videos as they roll out this week, especially the short tribute videos to Suzanne. And to all of you, I just want to say thanks so much for supporting Profiling Evil. It is meaningful, and it's making a difference in, I think, some people's lives as we try to roll out the goodness that you share with us. Please like and subscribe us, and we'll see you next time at Profiling Evil.